Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Memphis in Minutes, the show where we turn back the clock and relive the larger-than-life stories that made Memphis wrestling so unforgettable for those of us who grew up watching it. I'm your host, Gene Jackson, and today we're digging into the life of a man with more names than most wrestlers have moves, Roger Smith. You might remember him as Dirty Rhodes, The Flame, an Intern, or even Assassin number 2. He wasn't always in the main event, but he was everywhere. So let's pull the mask off of one of Memphis Wrestling's most versatile heels, Roger Smith. Born on November 24th, 1948, Roger Smith was a true product of the territory era. The man who learned the ropes in different towns every night of the week, all over a number of different territories. Some records say he hailed from West Virginia. Others list him as being from Austin, Texas. And that's the beauty of old school kayfabe. Even your birthplace sometimes can be hard to track down. But by the late 70s, Roger Smith had landed in the CWA in Memphis, the home of Jerry the King Lawler and superstar Bill Dundee. And that's where Roger first became Assassin number 2, teaming under a mask with a series of different partners. Originally, they were managed by Gorgeous George Jr. And the Assassins weren't just big. They were mean and tough in that ring. Behind the hood, Roger could talk. A lot of veterans remember him as being the mouthpiece of those masked tag teams when the manager wasn't doing the promos. It was usually Roger Smith behind the microphone with that gravelly voice of his. As the 80s started rolling along, Roger proved that he was a master of reinvention, as a number of times throughout the decade, he would, like a chameleon, would turn into all different types of characters in the Memphis territory. But first, he swapped out the mask for a cowboy hat and became Dirty Rhodes. That's right, a parody of Dusty Rhodes, so outrageous it was almost borderline parody. But somehow, Roger made it work. Fans in Memphis loved to hate Roger Smith, and that was the point. Then came another transformation. He became one of the interns, where he was intern number 2, teaming up alongside Donald Welch, but you probably know him better as Outlaw Don Bass. And at the time, the interns were managed by the legitimately injured Dr. Troy Graham. Troy Graham had a gruesome leg break during a match, and he made that a gimmick. And they put him in a wheelchair. They put him in Dr. Scrubs, and he managed Don Bass and Roger Smith as the interns. And they had a pretty good run there in 1985. They had some memorable matches with the Fabulous Ones. But eventually, Troy Graham moved on, and Don Bass and Roger Smith traded in the intern masks for some red and yellow fire and flame masks, with Smith being the flame. They set the territory ablaze. Once again, feuding with the Fabulous Ones, trading those AWA Southern Tag Team titles back and forth. They were wild brawlers, but now they had a fireball into the mix, which was always a way of making things interesting. But across the NWA territories, Roger Smith stacked up quite a resume. Some fans may not realize he was a 2-time NWA Mid-America Heavyweight Champion, 2-time NWA North American Tag Team Champion, a 9-time AWA Southern Tag Team Champion, and a 5-time CWA Tag Team Champion. He even made some trips overseas. He had a run with New Japan Pro Wrestling in 1984. He made a couple of appearances in the World Wrestling Federation that same year. And while he wasn't a household name, he's just one of those guys promoters knew they could trust to bring him in, and he would get the job done. By the mid-'80s, the mask came off, and Roger Smith and Don Bass reinvented themselves as the A-Team, managed by the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Of course, the A-Team, a very popular program on television at the time. And the A-Team clashed with all the big stars there in the CWA at the time: Lawler, Dundee, the Rock and Roll Express, on down the line. And when the territory days started to fade, Roger Smith still found work. He went and worked for a bit in Canada's Stampede circuit. Again, working some matches for the WWF. And, of course, all sorts of Southern MDs were more than happy to bring in a man of his background and stature to work their shows. In later interviews, he did one with Jim Cornette. He also did another with the 605 Super Podcast. Roger came across as very witty, humble, and very proud of his time in the ring. He seemed to enjoy reliving those stories. He shared a lot of great memories of teaming with Randy Colley as the Assassins. And, of course, Colley went on to be one of the guys behind the Demolition gimmick. And he talked about how, he and Randy worked together during a stage of their career, learning how to read the crowd and, make them bend to their will, make them cheer, make them boo, make them throw things if that's what they wanted. And as Dirty Rhodes, he got laughs. As an assassin, he got heat. But as the Flame, he said he was feared. And that's the Memphis formula. And Roger Smith understood it better than most. By the late 80s, Roger had eased out of the spotlight, but he never truly left wrestling. He appeared on local shows, doing promos, appearing at indie shows, doing different interviews, and always willing to help younger wrestlers, lending advice, sharing stories. And he was one of the last old school journeymen. And he would go, he'd go anywhere a booker needed him. He would go there, and he was a guy who built personas. That was a gift that Roger Smith had. He became each and every one of these different personas that these promoters wanted, and in the process, he made every one of them believable, and he got them all over. And again, he was a guy that promoters knew they could depend on, and if you put him out there, he wasn't afraid to get the heat. For a big man, he wasn't afraid to take bumps. Just a very, very talented guy who this is one of those unsung heroes. He's a guy you don't hear mentioned a lot, but my goodness, if you go down the list of all the different masked tag teams and masked wrestlers that came through Memphis, if you're competing in some kind of trivia contest and someone asks you who was under the masks as a tag team, if it was in the late 70s or throughout the 80s, you're almost going to be right 9 times out of 10 if you answer Roger Smith and Don Bass. So keep that in mind. But that's all for this week's episode of Memphis in Minutes. I hope you enjoyed our trip down memory lane. If you did, share this show, leave a review, and join me next time as we dig into more unsung heroes of the Memphis rings back in the day. And just remember, until next time, keep your mask handy and always be ready to change your gimmick. Keep the heat alive. We'll see you next time. I'm Gene Jackson for Memphis in Minutes.
Relive the glory days of Memphis wrestling with the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast. Each week, we go back in time to review USWA Championship Wrestling from the 1990s, episode by episode. Join us for watch-alongs, behind-the-scenes stories, and exclusive interviews with people who were there and lived it. Whether you grew up watching it or you're discovering it for the first time, this podcast is your ringside seat to Memphis wrestling history. It's all a part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Listen now at USWApodcast.com.